Welcome. Thank you for joining us tonight for the actually the third in this year's webinar series about the IB Mathematics curriculum. I'll be your moderator for tonight. My name is Ruth Casey, and Dan will be doing the main heavy lifting tonight. Thank you, Dan. Welcome.
Thank you, Ruth.
As we're getting settled in this evening, just become familiar, reacquaint yourself with the WebEx chat features. We won't be doing any polls tonight, but we will be using the chat window to send general messages, to send comments, questions. We do ask that you choose everyone from the drop-down list, not all attendees, not panelists, but everyone. That way Dan gets to see what you're sending out as well. So if you'd like to send out a greeting to everyone, maybe your location, just trying the chat feature, send out to everyone. We'll keep an eye on that chat window over there. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm going to move ahead and say, Dan, over to you. Thank you for sharing all of this great information with us tonight. And as a reminder to everyone here, the session is recorded. If you have to step away, if you lose audio or any difficulties, it is recorded and you have a chance to view it later.
All right. Well, thank you, Ruth. I appreciate it. And let me say that this is always one of my favorite parts of the webinar is seeing where everybody is from. I mean, I love seeing that, yes, people are here in the good old United States, me being from South Carolina, but just loving seeing people from, Japan, China, Jakarta. I mean, it's just awesome, awesome, awesome. So that's again, I love doing some part-time work with Texas Instruments, but I also love doing part-time work with IB. It's just global, it's international. So thank you all for being here tonight. As Ruth said, this is our third in our series, our 21-22 series for TI/IB webinars. So what we have done previously, in case you weren't with us before and you want to check out our on-demand webinars, we first talked about just for the general scope of what we're going to cover this year, and an overview of the changes, how that was affected with the first testing back in May. So we just did a brief overview. The second webinar that we did, and that was in September, basically talked specifically about topic 1, the numbers in algebra. And we just kind of went through basically what we're going to do tonight with topic 2. But, we talked about, the problems we saw with the exam. We talked about some common errors. We talked about the IA. We talked about, what changed, from the past curriculum to new curriculum. So and that's kind of what we're going to do. And I'll now go through the agenda. So just let me introduce myself again. My name is Dan Wilkie, and I teach in Greenville, South Carolina. I'm at an Episcopal school, Christ Church Episcopal School. And I have been teaching for, goodness gracious, 25 years. This is my 26th year of teaching. And I've been doing some side work with TI for now. This is my is it really my 7th year? The pandemic really threw me off. So this is my 7th year doing work with TI, and this is my 8th or 9th year working with IB as well. So I am, with respect to TI, I go around to different schools around the country and show, teachers how to use the technology for Texas Instruments. Now that has been kind of put on hold a little bit because of the pandemic, but what I still get to do and what I look forward to each session is I'm an examiner. for the paper 1 exam for applications and interpretations. And I'm also a moderator for the math exploration. So May was our first go round with both of those happening with the new curriculum. So it was interesting, and I'll give some insight into that. And I'm actually just today, I got the green light to get started on the November session. So I'll be grading some IAs for the November session for IB right now. All right, so let me start my slideshow. So let me share my screen. All right. Okay. So yes, we are going to be tackling topic 2. And I'm going to try to get my chat open as well. Okay. So topic 2 is functions. So our agenda for tonight is to talk about what's new in the curriculum. Because if you did not realize it, and I think everybody in here does, there were some changes to basically the full curriculum, and they created new math courses, and they tried to make some of them as similar to the old courses as possible, but with the addition of a new higher level course, they definitely added some stuff. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some items that stood out from the May 2021 exam session. All right. We will talk about how successful some functions topics were with the math exploration. And then we'll go into some tips and tricks that, maybe with TI, with the Nspire or the 84 that can help you in your IB math classes. And then we'll talk about what TI is doing to help improve your classes and help you as a teacher, help your students, because every semester we are trying to add more content to the TI website. So I'll go over that and I'll kind of show you what we've been working on. Okay, so let's just jump right in. And first, let's talk about what was kind of added to the curriculum for topic 2, functions. So for the applications and interpretations, you can definitely see how there was more changed about that side of things than the analysis and approaches. So they tried to fashion the applications and interpretations course to be somewhat similar to the studies course. So you'll notice that an addition that they put into the AI course, as I like to call it, is the inverse as a reflection over the line y equals x. And that's, for both SL, from the Math SL course. So it was formerly taught in Math SL, but now it's covered in the AI course. The y-axis is a vertical asymptote. Again, that was from the Math SL course. And something kind of brand new to the course, not taken from anything, was the sinusoidal models, okay? So something where, the studies class in the past did not have to deal with modeling sine and cosine. Now that has become a part of the curriculum. In addition to the sinusoidal models, they also have a whole section within the curriculum dedicated to how to develop, fit, test, and use models, okay? So those were SL inclusions into the AI course, and there are a few topics that were included into the new course of higher level applications and interpretations, which are logistic and piecewise models, scaling large and small numbers with logs, and then the type of log graphs that were not used before. So that was the AI side of things. And then for the analysis and approaches, there was nothing new added to what used to be the Math SL course. So the only things that were added to the higher level course, and that was the types of graphs that they used, which mainly focused on, not mainly, but somewhat focused on the absolute value type of equation, or what they like to call in IB world, the modulus type of equation. So there were some graphs that were added to the higher level, and then some modulus equations and inequalities that you had to solve for. So those were the additions and changes that I highlighted. And I have this document that I always like to share. So if you've been to any of my webinars, either in past years or this, I always highlight this document right here, and I'll post it again for people to use and peruse. And that's just this what's new. It kind of color codes, you know, the different topics, topic 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And it kind of highlights where the information was in the past curriculum and where it currently is in the new curriculum. So it does show you kind of the overlap from past to new, but then it shows you how if something was in Math SL, how it may be transferred to the kind of the studies level course, the applications and interpretations. So there's a good color coding system there that I always like to share just in case people are interested in using that, seeing that, and asking questions about, which that will become available to you as well. All right. So what did I notice, or what did people notice during the May 2021 exam session? Now, with respect to topic 2 and the idea of functions, what we kind of had a little bit of, I would say issues with, there were some struggles with the idea of modeling quadratics. Okay, so I got to see the finalized product of, when you're grading exams, when you're an examiner, you kind of submit your notes, and then they take those notes and they put them all together to give as feedback to teachers for future testing. And one of the things that they covered was the quadratics where they were modeling. There was a specific question, especially in time zone 2, where students had to model a quadratic, and they had to find basically in standard form what was A, what was B, what was C. And honestly, they could easily have done it within a minute or two if they used technology, but unfortunately, many of them kind of got stumped on, trying to do it in algebraic method by hand. And so there were some struggles with that type of problem. And where honestly, and I don't like to rely on technology, but if students were aware of some of the features technology-wise, it would definitely relieve some of the stress and pressure when they're taking the exam. They were in the 2 time zones, there was an inverse problem on each, well, in time zone 1 and time zone 2, sorry. For those 2 time zones, there was a linear inverse problem that was pretty straightforward with students trying to find an inverse and then talk about the domain of the inverse. But in the time zone 2 exam, there is a problem, and I'll show it to you right now. And this was a really big struggle with many students. When I graded this paper 1 question, this was by far the most missed question on the exam. And it was this one right here. So students were given this function of 2 minus 12 over x plus 5, given this domain, and they were asked to find the range, okay, of this function. And surprisingly, that was really challenging for them. Given this domain, they really couldn't pinpoint how to use this -7, 7 to give them the range of this function. So it was really shocking how they struggled with that first question, because the second part to this question was to find the inverse, and I'll actually type in what that second part was. So they had to find the inverse. So, oops, love my technology. So they had to find f to the -1 of 0. So there were some struggles on. You're not seeing the problem on the screen. Are we, can we not see my screen right now? Because I saw somebody say that. Can I get a confirmation if people, okay. I just want to make sure that we can see that. Thank you. So this was honestly the toughest question right here for the students. to do on that time zone 2 test. They just, because if you look at the curriculum does not specifically, the only way they talk about finding an inverse is basically graphically. So talking about how if you were to take this original function, this f of x, and reflect it over the line y equals x, what is the relationship there? So IB is basically asking students, if you're given this, what does this x value mean to the original function? And students were having a very difficult time saying, oh, if the inverse of this x value, that should be the y value of the original function. And they were not making that connection to that. So when we were going through, so right before the exam session was to be finalized, so what happens was, students take the exam, and then you get about a week or two to kind of, send your exams, mail your exams in, and then a group of us get together and discuss the mark scheme. And we have to go through every possibility of how students would do this problem. And for this question, originally in the mark scheme, it was not part of the mark scheme because there are several ways to do this, but it wasn't included to actually find the inverse first and then plug in 0 for the x. So I raised that question. I said, well, what if the students did it this way? And the teachers, they agreed with me, but you got to remember, it's not asked in the curriculum for students to know how to switch x and y and then solve for y to find that inverse function. So, we have to look at the different possibilities, and we were seeing just many students just not being able to make that connection in that problem. So, and I'll talk about this problem a little bit later. Because of the struggles that I saw with students, this is actually going to be one of the new activities that I'm creating for TI, is based off of finding inverses and how to do it graphically, how to do it algebraically, and that relationship between the points. So that's one way I like to find out, the new activity that I'm going to do is how well did students perform with it on the exam. So that's going to be one of my questions there. And you should see that hopefully by December, January. We're going to get those together. So the other things that I noticed on the exam, using an exponential model to solve for a variable. So again, there's a lot of modeling, if you notice here, with respect to, well, I was just, and I'm glad you asked that. So I was just looking, so the question that just popped up, it says not even for AA, they have to solve inverse by switching X and Y. So looking at my handy dandy chart here, and I love the question. So yes, for AA, it's in topic 2.5. Okay, you'll notice that, yes, finding the inverse of a function. So yes, in the AA course, that is a definite. That yes, they do, but not in the AI course. So in the AI course, when you're talking about inverse functions, if I can find that really quick here, it was only talking about, yes, right here, inverse functions as a reflection in the line of y equals x. So in the AI course, they didn't have to find an inverse. They just had to know the relationship between a function and its inverse graphically. Whereas the AA course, they have to do the relationship plus know how to find it. And that's where the AI students struggled. They didn't really grasp that relationship. So that used to be in the Math SL course only. So studies never had to do that. So I think that was one of those topics that just didn't make the leap yet. And so hopefully this year that type of question will be better. But that was a struggle. And that was another thing, the inverse relationships and finding domain and range of inverses. Those were the main issues that I had seen on the AA and AI exams. Now, I only have access to the exam that my students had taken and then the exam that I am grading for IB. So I didn't get the whole grand scheme of things, but this is what I noticed from what I was marking for that. So now let's move on to the IA. All right, so these were some of the main topics that I had. I graded about 120 IAs in the April-May session when they came in. And these were some of the topics that I saw from topic 2, from functions, that kind of seemed to pop out. So you'll see a lot of modeling. A lot of students like to, gather some data and then model that data at either a line, a quadratic, an exponential, that sort of thing. So there was some modeling going on. And if any student did any type of projectile motion with their paper, then you'll see the quadratic function come into play. And again, exponential log functions. I had students, of course, because we were in the time of COVID, I saw my fair share of COVID type papers and the data that was used from the COVID numbers. So there were a lot of exponential ideas there that came with that. Doing some lines and slopes. So, people were, some basic graphs with their linear functions. And if things were increasing or decreasing. And so I saw several of those. And then the idea of transformations, because honestly, it was very difficult for students to, without a calculator, manually find a curve or line of best fit. So they had to incorporate some sort of transformation to make it fit in their plan, on their curve or on their data. So these were just some basic things that I saw. And honestly, it was the first time for the AI course to do a math exploration. So I still saw a lot of statistics papers. And IB said, that even if they do a statistics paper, they can still, do quite well. That was not always the case. I hate to be honest or blunt with that. For the most part, it was okay. But students have to remember that with a math exploration, different from the math studies project, or, which some teachers call the statistics paper, you have to dig deeper. And students just were not doing that, because teachers who taught studies and then transferred over to the applications course, still had that checklist in the back of their head for the students doing the statistics paper, where all they had to do was, okay, talk about their paper, kind of describe the math processes that they're going to do, define their variables, collect their data, analyze their data, all right, and then reflect on that. So it was more of a checklist of making sure we covered all that. And with the math exploration, you unfortunately have to get away from the checklist idea when you're writing this paper. So I'm going to give a little plug to the next paper, okay, or the next webinar that we're doing. So the webinar in November, we are going to be focusing on the IA. And with that, I did a series of 6 videos for IB that kind of they're between 5 and 10 minutes in length. All right. And what they're going to do is lead you through the process of doing the IA in short little installments. So I hope they're beneficial. I actually just finished the videos last week, and they should be published shortly. So we'll give a little bit more insight to that in our next webinar. So just a little plug for next month. In my class, I teach my AA course. I teach AASL at my school, and we just this week started our process for the IA. And I'll go through exactly my procedure, how I do that with my kids. And actually the kids loved the process, how we started it. So I'm really excited this year about that. Okay, So moving on, so with your handheld, there are ways that you can, you know, use your calculator to benefit you. Remember, for the AI course, it's all calculator, so you can always have that calculator by your side. But for the AA course, it's split up into the calculator, no calculator. So there are situations where you can use it, okay? But it's always good to kind of know, just in case you're running out of time and maybe you need a time saver when you're using your calculator. So I just have a few things written down here that can possibly help with, different topic two ideas. And some of them are pretty basic. I just wanted to let you know, there are no restrictions for the 84 calculator. So when you go into the exam, if the student has the 84, they don't have to do anything special to that. Hopefully your IB coordinator at your school knows what you have to do if you use the Nspire here. Because, I was just looking at this today, I always like to refresh my memory on what you have to turn off before you take the exam. And honestly, the stuff that you take off, as I was looking through this list, the only thing that really, is a slight little hinder to what I see up here is the limiting of the geometry functions. All right, because the rest of it, honestly, there's nothing else that we are dying to use or need from the Nspire on this sheet of paper. So, and when I check things out today on my calculator, when I say it's limiting geometry functions, so if I opened up a geometry page, all right, then when I go to the menu, it's these three things that are turned off. So the measurement, the construction, and the transformation functionality of the calculator, that's what's turned off. And the only thing that I can think of that might be useful from those three that are turned off is maybe if you want to graph a reflection. So if you were to, graph a curve or a line, and then you wanted to reflect it over the line y equals x, well then, yes, that ability is turned off. Otherwise, there's nothing really of great super value, all right, that would be affected by what you turn off before the exam. But, to be honest with you, there's a few little benefits. As I mentioned on the PowerPoint here, we can use the numeric solver, which can be done on both the Nspire and the 84. And that's as simple as typing in the equation and solving for whatever variable. The Nspire can go a little bit further with that. With these next two is how to use the polynomial root finder or the simultaneous equation solver. Neither of those is turned off with the restrictions on the Nspire. And that's as simple as if you know how to open up a calculator page, go to your menu, and if I go to algebra, here is your polynomial tools, here is your solving systems, which is available to you. And I mean, I know it kind of takes away from, the solving aspect of what the kids are supposed to know and do. But honestly, they've been solving systems of equations for 3 to 4 years now. So to give them this time saver tool, I think is a benefit personally. Again, I always, in my classes, I teach pre-calculus as well. And I know they know how to solve a system of equations. So I will make them demonstrate to me that they can do that by hand first. But then once they've taken that test, and then when they're done, and I ask them now, how do you check it on the calculator? And I'll show them this. They'll be mad at me for a second, of course. But, I think it's a nice checking tool. As long as they can demonstrate to me that they can do it by hand, I have no problem with them, using this situation. And it's that simple. It's the same thing for the, if we were to do the polynomial root. We go to algebra, and then we do the polynomial root, the roots of the polynomial. We say that it's a second degree, and then we just type in the coefficients. Very simple, very straightforward. That again is not turned off on the Nspire. So these are just things that are helpful if you have the Nspire. But if you have the 84, you can do that same thing, but graph it and find the zeros. It's very simple. So both the Nspire and the 84 can be used to help you in this process. All right, so for the last couple webinars, I've had teachers ask if we can talk about some activities a little bit more. So that's why I wanted to save this kind of second half of this hour to activities. And so what I want to show you is, what is on the TI website? What are we trying to do to help you through this process? And right now, the last phase that we had, added material to, these were the new activities that I added because these are some new topics in the courses that really could use some new activities. So we have sampling techniques, bounded areas, t-test, and Voronoi diagrams. So we have a wide range of topics that we're covering here. And then I also took some of the already written TI activities and updated them in a more IB style. And so I'll give you a demonstration of that. And then I also, for every activity, I add an exam style question. So right now there are currently like 50 exam style questions available to you on the TI website. So let's take a look at that website real quick. So, oh, come on, get out of my way. Get out of my way. All right, so I'm going to go to, very simple, education.ti.com. All right, so this is the website we want to go to, and here we are. So, this is all this first screen will show you basically what we're all about. Thank you, Ruth, for posting that. And all you have to do, you can go to one of two places. So you can either go to the activities tab right up here at the top bar. And then if you scroll over to the right, you'll see IB resources. So that's one place. The other place you can go is you can go to resources, and then you'll notice that down here is the same thing, IB resources. So both places you can go to get to the same spot. So if I click on that, this is our Texas Instruments IB website. So what we have here are free activities, and I'll cover those in a second. Then down at the bottom is where our webinars are. So you'll notice that on the left, this is where you can register for all of our webinars. So I thank you all for coming today. I appreciate it. And then let's say that you didn't make topic 1, or you're going to miss next month's IA webinar. This is where we post. If you go to the on-demand webinars, you'll see that we have all of them listed that we've done, because this is our second round of webinars that we've done for IB. So the ones we've currently done are year 2 of the new IB Math Curriculum Learnings and Next Steps, and then tackling topic 1. So those are the 2 that we've already done this year. And then the ones below that are the ones we did in the previous session. All right, so we're going to keep doing these as long as you will come and listen. But you can also narrow things down. You can select the type of technology you want, of course. You can select the subject area that you want. But you'll notice that we're in the IB realm of things. Okay, so from there, all right, I'm just going to take a look at the activities that are available to us. And you can either go under the AA course or the AI course. It's up to you. If I go under the AA course, I'm going to browse activities. So what you will notice is these are all the activities that were either created, updated, or placed in here that had the most to do with IB. So our first round with these, me and a collection of other IB TI teachers kind of went through all the activities available at TI, and we kind of picked ones that kind of related to IB the most. And then the second round, I went ahead and I either created new activities or updated those to be more IB-like. So if you see this word where it says new, updated, those are the now IB-specific style. So since we are in topic 2, we can click on the current topic tab and go down to functions. And then now we will see all of the activities that our, with either technology. So we have 6 that are for the 8384, and we have 9 that are for the Nspire. So it's my job to basically to make these activities mesh well together. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to take this activity, which is which garage is better, and create and you see this Nspire, I want these 2 activities to be identical to one another. The only difference would be, of course, the handheld, the platform. So I am changing them up so that everything follows step by step with both activities and to have the IB flair to it. So that's one of the activities that I'm currently updating for this round, which is which garage is better. And that's a system of equations style activity. So it's where you're going to be solving systems, but kind of in a real life situation, a real world situation. So that's one thing. And we can look at that one as our second activity today. But the one I just absolutely love that I use every single year in my class is this one right here. It's called Cool in the Pool. I've been doing this pretty much since I started using the Nspire in my math classes. So if I were to click on this, okay, we have, it's an activity that both NASA and TI kind of created together, okay? And it basically centers around, there is what's called the Neutral Buoyancy Lab in Houston. It's where astronauts go and train for weightlessness. And so this activity is centered around the ginormous pool that's in this facility. And I love doing this in my exponential logarithm review chapter because it just makes a nice real world connection. And then it allows students to know how to, solve when using logarithms or exponential functions. So what you will see when you click on an activity is, yes, an objective, an overview, excuse me, of what the activity is. But at the bottom of the page, you can see that we have all the files that are associated with this activity. So there's, of course, a zip that contains all the activity documents. And then we'll also see here that we have some teacher notes because we never want you to go in without a little bit of backup, okay? My recommendation, whenever you use an activity through TI, any activity on the website, please do it first because honestly, you might find something that you would alter, change, adjust to fit your needs. And that's why, you're basically given these teacher notes and the student activity to kind of update it and make it your own. Now, I have to be honest with you. This activity cannot be changed, unfortunately. Normally, 99.9% of the activities on the TI website can be altered to fit your needs. This one cannot, okay? Because there is an agreement between NASA and TI, you're not allowed to change this activity. Sorry about that. So when you open up this student activity, okay, it's a PDF. Normally we give you a Word document and a PDF, but here it's only a Word doc, or only a PDF. So it kind of goes through the background of it, shows you what the actual pool looks like. So it's just kind of exploring what you're going to be doing in the problem, and ultimately what the actual activity is the workers at the Neutral Buoyancy Lab go home for a weekend and the power shuts off and the temperature of the pool starts to drop over the 4-day weekend. And then it's up to you and your students, especially your students, to basically figure out, some values with respect to what's called Newton's law of cooling. So you kind of go through this activity and answer these questions about the different temperatures over the days, making predictions, solving for exponential values, all through the Nspire. All right, then it starts asking questions, you notice about, if functions are increasing or decreasing, if things are asymptotic, what the range are. So you're going to answer these questions. Now, associated with this, if you have the Nspire, is a TNS file, okay? So that TNS file, if I can find it really quick, and I apologize if I don't have it right away for you, but I should be able to find it pretty quickly. So TNS activities. There it is. Okay, so it didn't take me too long to find, so I apologize for that wait. So this is the activity that will come with your document. So we start off with the picture of the pool. We start off with a little background material information about what's happening, and then you kind of go through, here's the data, and then the students then get to look at the data on a graph, and then here's Newton's law of cooling, here's the formula, and it's explained, the different pieces to the formula. So even though it might not be a formula that you necessarily use in your math class, it is explained to you what the formula is, and it is an exponential function with the base e. So you get to go through that, and then you get to solve for different things with it. And honestly, it's always my culminating activity when I'm done with exponentials and logarithms. So the kids love it. We spend a day or two on this. They get to do some hands-on stuff, and they ask the questions, they do the work, which is fantastic. And this is what we're trying to do with our IB activities. Is we want the kids to be hands-on and solving these real-world equations, real-world situations. But here's my problem with this. This is honestly one of my favorite activities. When I shared with TI that I wanted to update this and make it more IB-like, they quickly said, we have an agreement with NASA that we're not allowed to touch this activity. So that made me a little sad. I even said that in my email, that I got a little sad with that information. But I said, well, at least can I create a TI-84 document to kind of go hand in hand with it? And thankfully, NASA talked about it and said, yes, that's fine. So that's what I'm doing with this activity. Is for those people who are 84 users, I'm actually creating a version of this for the TI-84 calculator. So hopefully that'll be up, like I said, in December or even January. We'll see how quickly we can get that through. Now, once you are done with that activity, there is always an IB style question that goes with it. And this is in a Word document. So this is the document that I created, the question. So you'll notice that it's an exponential function that you're basically going to have to answer some questions about, either solving for t or solving for m of t. And I give you the question. I give you the mark scheme as it would look. But it's a Word document as well, because maybe you would like to adjust the equation a little bit, or maybe you would like to adjust what is asking for in part A or B or C. So you have that ability. So I took a question that I liked from IB and I, made something similar to it with respect to, what I liked or what I thought was useful. So you have that ability to take this question, make it your own if you'd like. And that's what we try to do with the TI activities. Is we show you this, give you a Word document, keep what you like, change what you don't, but use it if it's going to help you. All right. but that is one of my honestly all-time favorite activities with respect to TI and my IB classes. All right. So this is what you'll see. Now, if I go back, I also told you there was this which garage is better. So I'll go to the 84, 83 version. So again, you'll see a similar screen. You'll see some screenshots of the 84 and then a little idea. Students are to find the solution for a system of linear equations with two problems. So again, you'll see a zip drive of all of the documents, but then you'll see a PDF of everything and then a Word document. So again, this is one that you can adjust, make it your own, that sort of thing. But what I'm working on this fall is I'm going to take these documents and align them more with the new IB curriculum. Because right now they're good and I like them, but I just think we can add a little IB twist to them and to kind of make it more IB-like. But again, you can always, if I just click on the Word document, all right, which garage is better? All right, so we'll see, again, it is something that you can make your own. So we're basically trying to see which garage is better to park in, depending on your fees. So, I mean, it's a good real-world situation. So it's actually quite IB-like as is, but I just might add a little bit something to it, a little bit of discussion with respect to IB's curriculum and how maybe things would alter a little bit. And honestly, I would love your help, your input with this. If you have any ideas on what makes an activity or a question an IB question, and you would like to see that in an activity, I love getting feedback from teachers. All right, it makes me enjoy the process more. TI is always about taking the feedback from the teachers and making it good for them. So if you see this is again an activity that was created just by TI with IB not in mind, but there are a lot of aspects to it that are IB related. So, and that's what I think it could be just updated slightly to make it fit our courses a little bit more. And if you see an activity like this and you think something can be improved, I'd love to hear it. We're going to have a slide at the end of this presentation where at the end of each webinar, I ask my teachers, I say, okay, well, what type of activity would you like to see? So start thinking about that, because I'll show you my list. And for when we start in the spring on our next group of activities, hopefully that'll be included and we can kind of make that work for you. All right, so after we're done with this activity, then again, just like in the previous, the cool in the pool, we have an IB style question. All right, so if we click on that, here's your IB style question, and you have a PDF, you have a Word document. You can adjust this to kind of make it your own. So, I mean, again, you see that you like this question, but you want to alter it, do what you want with it, okay? I wrote it for teachers to use at their leisure, all right, to fit your classroom. So please, please, please use it to fit that, all right, to fit whatever your needs are. And like I said, at the end of each activity, so if we go back to our IB resources screen, and I just can't get it, sorry. And if you go to all the activities, every one of these activities here, and you see there's a long list of activities, there is an IB question that goes with every single one of them. So yes, there is slight overlap in some of the 84 and the Nspire activities, but they all have their own IB question. All right, like I said, there's like 50 IB questions there that you can use. All right, so I have a question here. All right, so it says, did you solve the law of cooling on the graphing function? It was chaos teaching my SLIA during exponential, and yes, I actually did, because so the way we did it, with respect to, we solved for, first we found the constant value that was in the exponent. That's the first part of, because the temperature changes each day, and even though K is supposed to be constant, it's not in this situation, which honestly brings up a very good discussion in your class of why that K is not constant in there. And then that's the initial problem. And then later on, after you find that K value, then you solve in that exponential function. And so not only do I show them how to do that algebraically, but then we also show how to do that graphically, okay? And both of those are included in there. So please use that activity. And give me your feedback. I'm going to put up my email address at the end of this session. So if you use that, or just look it over first and see if it's something that might be useful for you. I'd love to get your feedback on that, because I always use that activity, but you know, it might not work out for everybody. So I would love to see that feedback. But yes, we did do that activity and solved the exponential function with that. So basically, just to kind of give you a quick overview. So I told you next month we're going to be doing the IA, talk about the math exploration. So we'll give some information on that. And then we're going to skip December for our holiday season, and then come back in January and talk about topic 3, so the trig and geometry. And then in that webinar, I'm really excited because we're going to go over a new activity that I created for the wonderful Voronoi diagrams. Okay. So I'm very excited about that. That was one of the first activities that I created for the IB website, because that was such a new topic that was just out of left field. Okay. And I can't wait to share that with you all. So I had a couple more questions. So let's just take a quick peek. I love the question. So it says, for exponential modeling, don't we have to subtract the data by the constant to get a better fit curve? And yes, that is one of the ideas of transformations that we could use there. And when you do the Cool in the Pool activity, you get to discuss that with your students. So yes, so there is some transformation information there. So yeah, so thank you for mentioning that. Okay, let me get back to my PowerPoint. So with respect to, so Michael asked a question about any tips for students writing a modeling IA. So when you are going the modeling route, okay, now, Michael, is this basically with their own data that they've collected, or data that they have maybe, you know, found on the internet, that sort of thing? Just kind of ask how they're approaching it. And could be either. Okay, good. So for either one of those situations, because if we think about, you know, the old studies project where students were either doing a line of best fit or maybe an exponential of best fit or something like that, that is still a good IA to do. But, all right, it's very important for the students to understand the progression of their modeling. So with respect to, you know, when they put up the data, is there correlation enough to kind of take it to the next step and find that correlation? All right, so many times when students do a modeling paper, they will just, and I mentioned this earlier, they'll just check off the boxes, and just say, okay, I did this, I did this, I did this. But with the math exploration, if they're going to go the modeling route, make sure that they are talking more about the actual the correlation and what it means with respect to the data that they collected, why it will be a good correlation or not good correlation, before they just jump into finding the R value or the R squared value, or before they just jump into finding a line of best fit or a curve of best fit. It's always important for in the exploration for the students to dig deep and talk about the correlation first and seeing if it is worth, if it's a logical next step to actually find the model. Okay. And with respect to sketching graphs, yes, they can use a CD, they can use your graphing display calculator. Just please, please, please make sure, don't take a picture of your calculator. Don't take a picture of your calculator. That's a bad thing. So you need to actually because it's very easy these days, especially with the 84 or the Nspire, or if you use something like Desmos or GeoGebra, to take that graph and just transfer it over to the paper. So no pictures of your calculator, please, please, please. So you can do that. That is fine. And it says, say why they are doing what they're doing. Like, why is it? Yes, exactly. So Jorge, thank you for saying that. The math exploration is all about communicating your math, your work to the reader. All right, so you need to explain, is it linear and why it's linear? Is it exponential or why it's exponential? Okay, talk about why it's in that linear pattern or in that exponential pattern. All right, that is hugely different than what the studies paper was. It just has to go more in depth. Okay. So I'm so sorry. We we have about 2.5 minutes left. So if they don't use a photo, okay, great question. Again, your students should be able to, and if you are struggling with this, please come to my next webinar because I'm going to talk about this. I'm going to show different ways to get your 84 picture, your Nspire picture, or even if you don't have an 84 and Nspire, I'll show you some other techniques. Like I said, maybe using GeoGebra or Desmos or something like that, free software. I'll show you how you can transfer that onto it instead of the kids taking a picture with their phone and then putting that on their paper, because that is, it's all about the readability, and the students aren't putting forth that personal effort there. Yes, so I'm sure it'll be busy with questions. Yes, I can't wait for that one. So, so Ruth, I'm so sorry. We're kind of running out of time. So I'm going to hand things back over to Ruth so we can do our next phase. Can they use yes, they can use your smart view. Yes, yes, yes. And we'll talk about that. I'm going to go through so many options that you will give your students a plethora of ways to do it. So now Ruth has a drawing, right? Go ahead, Ruth.
I do. Thank you. Some of where we are tonight. One lucky viewer. And drum roll, please. I'm going to send it out in the chat. And here we go. Tonight's winner is Leanne Pusateri. Congratulations. Yay!
Good. Woohoo! All right. Way to go.
Okay, Leanne, you will be getting some email from a TI person, and they'll be getting your contact info, and you can tell them which model you'd like to have. And again, congratulations, and thank you for joining us for this. And we'll be doing this the next time as well. So yay!
Yay. So it was asked when the next meeting was, and it's November 11th for the next round. So somebody had asked that. So November 11th is going to be our Math IA discussion. Congrats, Leanne.
All right. For a certificate of attendance for tonight's webinar, you can go to this bit.ly. It is also coming out in the chat. It will be sent out to you via email in case you don't save the chat or you miss it tonight or you forgot, or you're viewing it later. that is case sensitive, and that is a 0 there. 3J0ISAQ. I tested it to be sure. Post-webinar follow-up, you'll have an opportunity to share some information. I'm actually going to stop talking because, Dan, I know you wanted to invite them to share suggestions or comments in the chat. And I'll go ahead and give my thank you for everybody for being here.
Yes, thank you, everybody. So I just wanted to let you know that my email is right here. If you have any further questions or further ideas for activities that you might want to see come up on the TI website, you can either type them in the chat right now or send me an email. And I can't wait to get working on your ideas. So thank you very much.
The chat's going to be going for a little bit. If you have questions or comments to share, that's going to be, oh, good question there about your dog.
Yes, I will definitely do that. So if we will submit it, I give a copy of that to TI to kind of put out in the materials. But I'll also, if you want it quicker than that, you can send me an email right after this, and I will forward it to you instantly. My son is waving to you all as we're finishing off here. That's Ruth. She's very nice.
Thank you all so much, and we'll see you in November.
Thank you, everyone.